Hi, welcome back to my channel. My name is Rachel. I am going to go over my October books. So I know that we're like partway into November already. Normally I try to do it like right at the end of October, but I went on vacation in October and then I had to work a bunch of days when I came back. And then I got this lovely cold. So we might have like some cough breaks. I was really hoping that maybe I would start to feel better, but yeah, so here you go. So I put makeup on today for church and I thought let's just film this video because I might have this cold for a few more weeks. It sounds like this one is lingering. So in October I went on a Mediterranean cruise and I went to Venice in Croatia and some Greek islands. So my reading was just affected by it. Like I did more reading than I thought I would. But like I couldn't really like choose, like I didn't want to bring any physical books with me. So like whatever I could get as an ebook, and like downloading things sometimes was an issue. So I just read differently than I maybe would have at home. So I still had a pretty successful month. I think I read 13 or 14 books. But yeah, like I didn't read as much like spooky stuff as I thought I was going to, just because like that stuff wasn't as readily available on the Libby app, just because I think everybody else is also trying to read it. So yeah, so here is what I read. So the first thing was an audiobook. So this is The Gilded Wolves by Roshani Chakshi. So this is a series. This is the first in the series. It's like kind of like fantasy heist, like kind of similar to like Six of Crows. I feel like Six of Crows does it way better. But I gave this one 4 stars. So it was like a team of kind of like misfits that all have, you know, it's like a team of like, there's somebody that does explosions and somebody that does like sleight of hand, like things like that. So I honestly, like it was a little bit hard to kind of keep track of, like I feel like I couldn't keep track of the fantasy elements of it. So there's like family lines that have power, and so like the leader of this like band of misfits, his family lost power, so he's trying to like get it back, but there's like secrets, and so I feel like more will be revealed through the series. Like I enjoyed it. I was a little bit confused, and I was probably very distracted, like trying to pack and get all these like days worked so I could go on vacation. And then the next book that I read was The Inheritance of Orquídea Divina. This is by Zoraida Cordova. So this, I would call this like an adult Encanto. So our main character is called back by her grandmother who says she's gonna die. They go to this like magical, like it really is super close to Encanto. So they go back to this magical house and the grandma like dies. Well, she turns into a tree, and then they all kind of have to figure out like what their inheritance is. There's secrets. It's like it's darker because it's more of an adult version. And there's no singing, which is really sad. But I did like this. I gave it 4 stars. It was a little bit confusing. I don't know, like it just wasn't as like fast moving as I would have liked, but I liked the story overall, so that's why I took the 1 star off of it. But I liked the main character, I liked the story and the plot. Yeah, it was great. It was, I read it because it was Encanto and I love Encanto. So but yeah, it was exactly what I wanted it to be. So this is like magical realism, if that is a genre that you like to read. And then I read Upgrade by Blake Crouch. So I've read Recursion and Dark Matter. So he does like science fiction, like thrillers. So like kind of, so I kind of like the premise behind this book is like if your genes, if we go further with gene therapy and can like select genes, so like you can get rid of like autism and you can get rid of like and then like obviously people with any science are gonna like what's the line kind of. So like, how far are you taking it? And so this is further in the future where they've done a lot more with gene therapy. And so there's like, the main character he's like on a gene task force where they go and like, if people are modifying genes outside of the law, they like investigate them and arrest them. So that is the premise of Upgrade by Blake Crouch. So the main character is, like a gene task force police, and he is called to a house where they think somebody is doing like gene therapy that's against the law. And while he's there, a bomb goes off that alters his genome. So he becomes like this superhuman, and there like lots of ethical questions, right? Because like he didn't do this to himself, and so like the government's kind of like chasing him, and they think he's in on it. And like, I love the premise of this. They spent so much so much of this book was spent trying to explain the science, that like instead of having it be part of the story, like the character just explained things for paragraphs. And so I was just disappointed, because I thought that you could do it in a more active way, like have it in a conversation between characters, but it was just so much explanation. And then they like jumped forward like 5 years, which it just doesn't seem like that much of a thriller if you're just like jumping forward in time. So I only gave it 3 stars. I thought the potential was there. It was just a little bit disappointing with like the flow. The next thing that I read was Fence. This is a graphic novel. I loved it. The best thing about graphic novels is you can read them so fast, so you just feel like so productive. I think there's like 8 or 9 volumes. So I had a couple. I think I ordered a couple, and I think I might have put some on my Christmas list. So I will be reading more in the future. I loved the premise of this. So the main character is the illegitimate son of a famous fencer. He's like never been acknowledged by his dad. But he goes to a tournament, and he competes against this kid who's amazing, and very arrogant because he's amazing. And then he goes to a private school, and they end up being roommates, and I believe there's some sexual attraction between them. But definitely like rivalry. And yeah, it's cool to read about fencing. I don't like really know anything about fencing. So I loved it. I gave it 5 stars. So I will be reading the series. And I would say like Heartstopper was my first like graphic novel, and like it was cute, but I don't know that I need to like keep reading volumes. Where like Fence, like great story, love it. So 5 out of 5. Then I listened to The Vanderbeekers of 141st Street. So this is a middle grade book by Karina Young Glazer. So this is a middle grade book. It's like set in Christmas time. Like this would be a good like winter like feeling book. So it's this family in New York that lives in this brownstone. They have 5 kids, and they are informed that the landlord is not going to renew their lease. So they have to be out, I think, before Christmas or just after Christmas. So the kids kind of scheme throughout the whole story to try to change the landlord's mind. It was a very cute story. I honestly, I remember like the main plot point of how it ended, but it wasn't, I mean, it was kind of predictable because it's middle grade, but it was cute. So, I mean, there's better middle grade books out there, I feel like, but it was very like seasonal. It felt very Christmassy. It's cute. So I gave that one, I gave it 4 stars. I guess I thought it was real cute at the end. And then I just, switched from like Christmas and warm and fuzzy feelings to My Best Friend's Exorcism by Grady Hendrix. So I have heard great things about this book. I've heard that it's like 80s, like Stranger Things vibes. Like the book itself is like, it looks like a VHS. I love this book. I think I gave it 5 stars. It's like so easy to read. It was a great book. It like kept you kind of on your toes. So, the main character and her friend, like like dabble a little bit in alcohol. Her friend goes into the woods, and when she comes back, she's very different, because she has a demon inside of her, and like nobody believes her. Her friend like gets worse and worse, and it's just like written really well, and like I just like major like friendship vibes, like 80s vibes, friendship vibes. And this girl like really like lays herself on the line for this friend who is like being awful to her because she has a demon inside of her. So yeah, I think I read this in like 2 sittings. It was so good. It kept me reading. Love the 80s vibes. If you like Stranger Things, I'd highly recommend My Best Friend's Exorcism. So yeah, 5 stars. Then again, I would say switching gears, but I read this over like probably a month just because there is so much in this, and I would probably reread it again. So I finished it in October, but I read it for like most of September as well. So this is The Journey Towards Wholeness. This is a book by Suzanne Stabile. So it's about the Enneagram. So I love the Enneagram. If you want to learn about the Enneagram, I would highly recommend The Road Back to You by Ian Morgan Crone and Suzanne Stabile. So that's like the primer, like you learn about the Enneagram and like background information, where this goes a little bit more deep. So like if you know your Enneagram type already, this gives amazing, like, this is how you respond to situations, and this is like where you like this is kind of your weakness, and like these are things you can do to strengthen like your spirituality. And like I like the like very concrete sorry, the like, okay, so you're an Enneagram 1 and you're so critical, so you should do this. So I do feel like I think my book club might read this as well, and I think it would be really amazing to do like as a group, especially with a lot of different Enneagram types, and kind of talk about like just be able to like digest it a little bit more. Like I read it, but now I feel like I need to like read it again to digest it. So I think I gave this one, I gave this one 5 stars. I love all things Enneagram, all of them. And then I read, Mabel is asleep on my lap. I read An Unkindness of Magicians. This book has been on my shelf for a long time. So I heard about this from a couple of different booktubers, and I mean, this book is so gorgeous. So it's like not on a lot of lists, but I loved it. Like 5 stars. I loved it so much. So this is, I think it's set in New York City. So we start with like the scene on a street, which is great. Like there's like these magicians that are like getting set up for this battle. So it's normally it's normally more like once a decade that they, or not a decade, like once a generation that they have these like magic battles where they like, it's hard to put into words, but they like fight for power like in their magical realm. So there's all these like families that they each have a representative. So the representative could be from like a different coven. So this year there's a lot of like parent-child relationships that are strained. So they're like fighting for a different family. Isn't it fun to watch me cough? And now I'm like sweating. Colds suck, man. They really do. So this time, like the cycle is not in a generation. Like it was just like 10 years later, like 11 years later. So like very soon. So they feel like something is like not stable in the realm. The magic is great. There's like an underlying, like I don't want to give it away, but like the duels are great. The duels end up being like to the death at the end, which is something that they know. So they just like know that people are going to die. Yeah, I loved it. I loved the characters. I loved everything about it. I kind of wish it was a series so I could read more about these characters. Yeah, it was great. So, An Unkindness of Magicians. 5-star fantasy. it's just at that point that it's just like a tickle, like nothing's gonna make it better, you know? And then I owned this physical book, but I went on my cruise, and so I actually read this on an ebook, which is why I got my sticker on here that I gotta get off. So because I loved My Best Friend's Exorcism so much, I went out and bought the Southern Book Club's Guide to Slaying Vampires by Grady Hendrix. And I had heard that it's, I mean, like Grady Hendrix likes some like gross things. Like he doesn't shy away from depicting gross stuff. So this book is about a vampire who moves into this southern town where there's a book club, and the main character is attacked by her neighbor, like her ear is like bit off by her neighbor, who ends up dying, and they think she was just like rabid. So her nephew is like takes over her house, this neighbor's house, and they love him, right? Like he's like so charismatic and great, and so our main character finds out that he's a vampire. First she thinks he's a drug dealer, then she finds out he's a vampire. And then she's trying to convince everybody that he is a vampire. And all the men in the book love him because he's making them money. And so they think their wives are crazy. And then, of course, the book club ends up saving the day because there's some badass women. It's like not a sweet book. I mean, it's like horror. Like it's gross and there's some nasty stuff going on, but I don't know, Grady Hendrix is just a very entertaining writer. It reads really quickly. I gave it 4 stars. So not quite as good as My Best Friend's Exorcism, so I would still start there, but it was still a good book. If you like some horror, like if you're gonna put some books on your list for Halloween for next year, I would read some Grady Hendrix. I liked it. Whew. And then I read You Made a Fool of Death with Your Beauty. And I don't know where I heard of this from, but I had heard that this was a beautiful story. There's a lot of glare on there. By Akwaeke Emezi. Don't know if I'm saying that right. So our main character is Faye. So her husband died in a tragic car accident. And so we're like a couple years later, and she's trying to like learn to live again, basically, like with survivor's guilt. And so she dates somebody, and they decide that they like are gonna part ways. She sees his friend in a bar and is like, he's super, super cute. So she's not ready to date him, but he's like head over heels in love with her. So she goes home with him to an island that he's from, and when she walks in, she immediately falls in love with his dad. So like there's like this was a great story because like it's not like she's like cheating on this guy, but like there's some controversy there, right? So yeah, it's just like learning to love again after loss, and like because the dad has lost as well, and so it's just kind of like the love story between the two of them. And I don't know, like I feel like the complexity of the story was written so well. It moved so quickly. It was a little spicy. So yeah, I gave it 4 stars. I enjoyed it. I guess you could call it romance, but I feel like it was about so much more than the romance. So maybe like contemporary fiction. I don't know. Sometimes I'm not good at putting things into genres. And then I went like back again to some horror. Thriller? I think this is more thriller. Again, sorry, I got these stickers. I don't like pick the stickers off until I read the books. Whatever. So now you know, it was 50% off. So The Sanatorium by Sarah Pierce. I heard good things about it initially, but I've been kind of back and forth on Reese's book club. Like some of the books that she loves, I don't love. So I didn't know what I was going to think about this, but I'm just trying to read through my shelf before I buy too many more books. So The Sanatorium, this is a sanatorium, like an insane asylum, in, I think it's Switzerland. It's like at the top of a mountain. And So it has some like shady history that was covered up, and now it's opening as a 5-star hotel called Le Summit. So our main character is a police officer named Elin. I feel like I had like multiple characters named Elin this month, which is not a common name. So Elin is a police officer who is getting over a traumatic event at work. So she's not currently working, like she's like on leave, trying to decide if she's going to go back. And she goes to this hotel with her boyfriend. Their relationship is a little bit strange, trying to like figure out their future. Her brother, who she thinks maybe murdered their little brother, is there with his fiance, who is like part of running the hotel. And then an avalanche happens and they're supposed to be evacuating, but then they start finding dead bodies. So they're trapped there because of the avalanche. She is asked to help investigate. It was a good thriller. I thought this kept me on my toes. I love the like medical background. Like, it is shady. So shady what happened to women under the guise of mental health, or even if it was for mental health, just the way that patients were treated and how they had no rights. So I liked it. I think I gave it 4 stars. And I think there's more to the series, and I will probably read it. It was great. I loved it. It moved really quickly. I was excited to read it. Oh, man. And then I listened to The Diamond Eye by Kate Quinn. I have been waiting for this book on audiobook for like 2 years. So, The Diamond Eye by Kate Quinn. So this is set in World War II, but it's a Russian female sniper. Like, her point of view, her memoir. So it's like official memoir, and then there's like unofficial memoir. So obviously this is historical fiction. Not all of this is true. It's like the main character and her like life is true, but then there's like sprinkled through it is she's on a goodwill tour throughout the US, and then there is like an assassination attempt on FDR, and so that actual storyline is not necessarily true, but it keeps the book moving. Like, the pace is amazing. I love this character. I liked the fact that, like, it's interesting. I feel like in World War II history, we don't talk much about the Russians being our allies. And so it's just really interesting to see how many Russians were killed while America was just kind of like safe and away from the war. So like their goodwill tour is her like begging them to open a second front. And talking about like her being a sniper and a female sniper. So I really liked that book. I gave it 5 stars. I feel like it was exactly what historical fiction needs to be, right? Like, great, mostly facts, but then like it was just written so well. It moved so quickly. I loved it. And then I listened to The No Show by Beth O'Leary. So Beth O'Leary writes romance, and I've had really good luck with her. And then I had one book that was just such a dud, and I was like, I don't know if I want to read another one. And my friend that I was on the cruise with said, no, that's a cute one. Like, you should read that one. So I started it, and I was very much like, I don't know, I think I hate this main character, like this guy, because he's like dating all these women, and it's just like so shady. Like, I just don't like the cheaters. And I very much was like, okay, I feel like this is going to turn around somehow. I don't know how. So I'm not going to spoil it. Things turn around. You end up liking the characters. And it was a very cool, like, twist, kind of a twist. It was a really cool premise. I honestly didn't see it coming. I feel like I probably should have seen it coming. But it was great. So I think I gave it 4 stars. And I probably only took the star off because I was so frustrated because I hated the cheater in the beginning. So, yeah, it was a good book. Kept me reading. I would highly recommend Beth O'Leary. I do like her a lot. And then the last one that I actually read earlier in the month, but I forgot about it, so I just put it like in the back of my little book, is Sky in the Deep. So I listened to this book while I was packing, even though I own the physical copy because I was just trying to get through my books. So this is by Adrienne Young. She also wrote Fable and Namesake, which I gave both of them 5 out of 5. Like, such good stories. They're like kind of fantasy. Yeah. So this one's like a Viking story. So our main character is a warrior and she's in battle and sees her dead brother. So she thinks he's like a spirit that was sent to help her. And then he appears again and she goes and like chases him down. Well, it turns out he's actually alive. So she kind of goes to investigate and ends up with this like clan that they are always fighting against, who's an enemy, but he is now like living with them as family. And so it's kind of about like, you know, like war just for the hell of it, and like these just like underlying things that you're taught to hate, that they necessarily aren't as bad, you know, like they're like you. So then a third enemy comes in that's bigger and badder, and they have to fight together. And I took a bunch of stars off for this because I don't actually remember what happens at the end. It just wasn't, I don't know, this one just didn't grip me as much. I think maybe if I read a physical copy it would have. I think I was maybe distracted. I do like Adrienne Young's books. I will keep reading her. But it just wasn't my very favorite. I felt it was a little predictable too. Yeah, so those are my books. I read 14 books. 6 of them were audio, 5 were physical, 3 of them were ebooks, which I really only read ebooks when I'm on vacation because I did not want to go to Europe and take like 5 books with me, but I also have just this greatest fear that I will run out of books on vacation. Like, just that I will not be able to read and I will just be sitting and staring. I know that's not going to happen. I have to tell myself all the time, like, you could buy a book in the airport if you actually needed to. I've not once had to do that, but it's a fear. It's a real fear. All right. Yeah, so I didn't read as much like thematic as I thought I would, but I thought it was a good month. I read some, like, I had a lot of 5 stars, so it was very hard to choose my favorite book for the month, and I don't know, we'll have to see if maybe one of my 5 stars is my book of the year. I'm very excited to like look back and choose book of the year because I've never done that before, and I feel like it'll be so fun. And then I will be back for another video soon, that just to kind of go over like what I want to read for the rest of the year, because we only have like a month and a few weeks before 2023, which is super crazy. And I've already read over 160 books this year. So I feel like I could either just like not read if I don't want to. Like, I've far surpassed my goals. But I kind of just want to like clear the shelf, like get some of this, especially like the stuff that's been on my shelf for a long time. I just want to like get rid of it. So, but then I also want to read thematic holiday books. I don't know. It's hard. It's hard to choose. It's hard to make TBRs. It's hard to keep up with your TBRs. So, yeah. I'll see you soon for my end of the year TBR.